Man, it's Wednesday night, just like that.
Just like that, man. It doesn't seem like it wasn't even a full week, you know?
I know it kind of just sneaks up on you. It literally just like flies around and then sneaks up on you, and next thing you know, it's Wednesday night again, and you're having to do it live. So, and I've been like extremely busy the past couple of days, man.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah, now I got to wait till August. Yay, August. So hurry up and wait.
Hurry up and wait, right?
Yeah. But so it won't be a free man till August, I guess, at the best. All right, well, kicking off this Wednesday night at the top of the heap is Lars LP94, One-Eyed Cat, Don English, Junkyard D is here, Bobby Frizzell of Frizzell Racing, Bruce Coltgen, Dean Stevenson is in the house early. Okay, let's see. Everybody's having a conversation. Slant Day, the garage. What's up, suckers?
What's up, suckers?
Okay, Miss Cat G. SSR Performance, Wednesday Night Live, and I'm ready. The Nomex wearing, ring and pinion tearing, tire peeling, woo, RPM screaming, switch pitch frying, son of a gun, and I'm having a hard time holding these wheelies down.
Nice.
It sounds like he's having a good time.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Michael Robert Embry's in house. Let's see, Buick 350 V8 Power. Roger's here. 38 Racing is here. Michael Schmidt is here. Vintage Adventurer Driver. Vintage Adventurer Drives. I managed to show up early since I'm waiting on parts. Well, nice. You're in the right place. Yeah. Val 360 Jimmy. Andy is blessing us with his presence.
Andy.
You guys better take it seriously around here. Yeah.
The Mafia's in the house.
Val 360 Jimmy. Clayton's Toolbox. Mama M3 says, hammer that like button, folks. If you're here, go ahead and smash it for us, because that lets YouTube know that, well, at least someone watched. Okay. Mean Street Mopar is here, and Fab Race Mod Repeat. Hello from Speed Oasis at Northeast Dragway. Paul Pihoy is here, and Mohawk 62. And I think that's it. And Michael Schmidt says, like button has been smashified.
Smashed.
Yeah. So smash it as much as you want. Just smash it on your screen, not in front of me. And don't record you smash it. Okay. Smash that. Yeah. But tonight, we're legitimately on top of nothing. I didn't bring anything to discuss. So hopefully you guys got tons of tech questions. And we can get the night rolling.
Yeah, I'm actually still tired from welding on this thing. I went through a whole number 3 bottle of argon gas this weekend welding. That's a lot.
A whole number 3 bottle? That's like is that the 4-foot tall one?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
You've been burning some midnight wire, I guess, huh?
Yeah. I went through the big roll, not the little ones that you get from like, like Home Depot, the big one, I went through a whole roll. A lot of welding. Right.
Well, I have a mystery box, and I'll let you guess what's inside.
I know what's inside.
So, yeah, you already know. But, I just took delivery of something I've been waiting on to get the Easy 302 together. So, one, folks, that have been waiting, I have a video I've been sitting on for like 2.5 weeks. I'm not really sitting on it because it took me almost 3 weeks to film it. It took me 4 days to notch one piston. And it literally was just a pain in the butt and slow and tedious, and finally get it right. Then after that one piston, it was a little easier to do the second one, and then a little easier to do the third, and then a little easier to do the fourth, and then it got to be pretty easy, but it took me a while to get caught up. So let's see. Vintage Adventure Drive says, I went through a bottle of acetylene. My oxygen is still kicking, though.
Oh, yeah. For me, it was the argon.
Where are we going here? 1947 sea ration. The sea rats. No, this is actually copper coat in a can in a box directly from Amazon.
So it's great stuff, dude.
Yeah, that'll be the last thing I'm doing is I'm going to copper coat the head gaskets slap them on. I think this thing's still going to have about 11 and a quarter, 11 to 3/4, or I'm sorry, 11 and a quarter to 11 and a half to 1 compression. And so it should be fairly hairy. Aunt D wants to know, what were you welding, Professor P?
Oh, I was welding up. I put a triangulated for a link in this car, and there was no upper adjustments. So I went send, cut, send, and I made these upper adjustments. So I can change my anti-squat and squat. And literally to do that, you have to reconfigure the whole suspension up there because it's only designed for one hole. I added 2 extra holes down below, which means that because it hangs down farther and it pulls back because the bottom pushes, I had to reinforce that whole area, tie it into my pinion snubber. And yeah, it was a lot of welding, a lot. And then plus it was everything on the axle itself then too. And it just takes a long time. And I turned up the gas a lot because it was on number 4 and it's only a Hobart 140. So on number 4, when you're welding, I was trying to, keep it from splattering as much as possible.
Let's see. SSR Performance says, if you need something to discuss any small block Chevy oiling mods y'all like to do, or anything you like to do out of a standard blueprint on the short block assembly.
Yes. I can tell you what I do on small block Chevrolets. Actually, I do this on all small blocks prior. If you look at an LS on the mains, they actually have a little trough in there, actually in the saddle, like in the main itself. I do the exact same thing as I take a groove, and then I take an old bearing and I'll do I think it's 764, so I think it's 109. That's literally the exact diameter of that little groove. So if you're running a half groove or a full groove bearing, it fits right in there. I'll drill 2 holes. Then there's the center one. I drill 2 holes back. I can keep it about 3/4 of an inch getting to the end, and then I take a Sharpie, pop it down there so I know the path, and then I just take a grinder and then grind it just like a cutoff wheel, and I just make a small channel from the oiling hole up, because if you're drilling your oiling holes to your mains, a bigger hole, but yet you're not giving it any more way to get to the main itself. You haven't done anything. So I do that so that way it introduces oil not only in the center, but in 4 extra spots. So that way you have continuous flow across the bearing. So I do that on all of them. And I do that especially on Mopars because they only have the one oil hole coming down. And people always increase that, but they never make the hole bigger going into the bearing itself. So that's what I do. That's a main one.
My big one is, see, you asked a Chevrolet small block, and I'm going to throw this out there. I'm not a small block Chevy guy. This is literally the second one I've ever done is on this Easy 302. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm not familiar with them enough to know what's the big problems. I do know that the oiling system on is pretty badass compared to the Buick stuff I work on. And the Buicks, like Shane was saying, they're very much like a Mopar where they'll have one hole that oils every main, right? Like, and it's the same as most of the blocks, I guess, anything besides the LS, which appears to have a groove, which I didn't know that. So, but the Buick, they have one oil hole, but the problem with the oil hole is it never lines up correctly with the hole in the bearing. It's never straight on. So what I do is, unlike the LS, and I'm sure that's what that groove is for, is it gives you a little bit of variation of moving it around, right?
No, it actually, what it does is the channel, the actual groove that's in the center, it elongates. So it's not a hole. The whole bearing is elongated. So it's actually split in that spot. So you have a complete open path, not just a hole.
In the bearing?
Yes, in the bearing. It's got a groove in the bearing.
Oh, that's bitching. I didn't know that. But
yeah.
Mine is that what I'll do is, instead of like elongating it or making a hole, like wider, all I do is I get a 45-degree chamfer bit and I just chamfer all those to where it opens up the radius. Instead of being like, let's say it's 5/16 or 1/4 inch, right? It's now generally the next size up. So it'd be like 5/16 or, in this case, what is 6/16? 8, or no, I'm sorry. Is it 3/8? Is that what it is? Yeah. I take it up to the next size, essentially. It might actually be a little bit bigger than that, but it's just tapered at a 45-degree bevel. And that way, in case there's not an exact alignment with the bearing, hole in the bearing, it gives you a little bit of wiggle room, some fudge room. And then you're not pretty much shorting one side or wherever it's not exactly lined up with. That seems to be a big problem with the Buicks. Another thing, if you really wanted to go through it, and this is a race piece that you're wanting to do, I will tell you for a fact, if you were to spend some time where the oil pump, let's say you do nothing to the oil pump itself, but you take the oil pump and you make sure that the hole in the block's exactly the same size and it exactly lines up, and then you radius all of the turns, and you do just like what you would do in a port and polish, but you do it in the oil passages. I guarantee when you prime that thing, the drill itself will work half as much. And if you think about it, if the drill itself is working half as much, your distributor is working half as much. So is your cam working half as much, and your timing chain working half as much, and the crank working half as much. So it turns out to be instant horsepower that you're putting down, because it's less parasitic loss is what you're looking at. But if you really take the time to go through that, even if you don't open anything up, but you smooth everything out, you radius the turns, you chamfer stuff, it will be noticeably different when you prime it. And I'm telling you the truth. You will see it on the drilling it. Shane and I have talked about this pretty much in depth.
100%. There's so much power to be had just in the oiling systems. It's just insane, for real.
Because the problem with the Buicks is everybody would run like 100 pounds. Well, what happens is it becomes like a hydraulic press at that point, right? And it is robbing so much power, because if you think about what it takes to turn a hydraulic press versus something that's just moving oil, it robs a ton of power, So when you get volume in there, and volume actually makes it flow well, then guess what? You don't have all that back pressure, and that is exactly what you're feeling when you prime it.
Yeah.
So, but it's the same way when it's running. The only way it gets better is generally when you gain some heat in the oil and it thins out. Okay, LC2 Kid. Sup, you animals. Well, we're giving it our best on a Wednesday night. I'm already falling behind. Nick the Van Man says, tech question, Ford C6, 150 miles on it, lost their gear, has third cold, slips hot, free revs at light throttle, no third gear, engine braking, add throttle, and it goes back in. What broke? I'm telling you, that sounds like a clutch pack.
I was just going to say it's clutch back and line pressure. It's something stuck in there. It's probably leaking and it's done. They're known for that. Same with the Force.
Yeah, that's what I feel sorry for Nick the Van Man, because this is the fresh C6.
Oh, it's terrible, dude.
Let's see. 38 Racing saying, Shane, you had shown those mounts the other day, didn't you?
Yeah. In fact, I just put a video up. I got it right here. This is the alignment tool. So this is on my axle end. This hole is where it was before. And then so I added these two holes, and these are exactly 4 degrees each one. So right now the arm at this point right here is at like 0.4. So then this, let's just call it half a degree. So this is going to be 4.5, and this one will be like 8.5 degrees down. So yeah, I was going to put 4 holes on here, so there's going to be an extra one, but it just brought it too close to the axle, so I just put 3 holes in it. But yes, that's exactly it. I just made a video of it. Now there's a little, I was just talking to Downs about this earlier. I was really hot and heavy. I'm in there. Yes, I'm doing all this stuff and taking all these bitching pictures and videos. And then there's about a 10-hour gap there where I just finished it and said, hey, this is what I did, because I had a lot of welding to do. So go watch it if you want to see it. But yeah, it's up.
All right. Well, Buick Smith says, does send save everyone's file? So if someone else needs the same thing, we can just call them. I think that's probably illegal in their part, right? Because that would be sharing industrial secrets across, 2 different entities, and maybe they are. I don't know, but you would think that would be. That used to be what they call industrial espionage.
Yeah, but whatever you need, it's really simple. I mean, if you want something like this, you just tell me the center to center you want. And what it is, if mine will work, mine was 10 3/4 inches. So if that's the center to center, just make the arc and put the holes in. It's really simple.
Danny Boyd says, Nick the Van Man, just a guess, band went out of adjustment. So try tightening your band.
Oh, okay. Wait a second. In third gear, is that a band on third gear?
Band apply on, no, I don't think in high gear.
Not in high gear, because in high gear, I think it's just the clutch because it's directed.
It's first and second is.
I think.
Oh, no.
Is it
I honestly cannot remember, but I think it is.
On a Ford, is it a band apply? I don't know. I can tell you that a Chrysler, it is definitely not, and I know in Chevrolet, it's definitely not band apply for high gear.
I don't think high gear is.
It should be direct because that's in and out.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. I don't know on that one.
Mohawk 62 says, Shane, a throwback to Friday. Can you talk about the power valve circuit sometime tonight? I don't remember who else wanted to know about it.
Okay, yeah. What I'll do is when we have a little lull in it, I'll go grab a power valve so that way in an actual metering block, so that way you guys can see what I'm talking about and how it works. But yeah, I will. We'll get
Michael Schmidt wants to know. Oh, I'm sorry. Michael Schmidt wants to know, rotating assembly balancing inline 6, does little and big end rod balancing applicable if the piston's rod weight are pretty close? Is it still necessary to send the crank and rods for balancing, or do you just send the crank? Oh man! So balancing, if you're going to balance something, generally they want the crank, the rods, the pistons, the rings. They need a set of bearings just for one rod generally, and then the harmonic.
Not in a 6-cylinder though.
I don't know. I don't think.
Cylinders.
I think it would have to be just the weight of the piston rod.
Nothing. On a 6-cylinder, on a Slant 6, and most American 6-cylinders, it's neutral balance because you have 2 up, 2 down, 2 mid.
Oh, so it's always the same.
Yeah. So the only thing, what I do on my Slant 6 is I neutral balance the crankshaft. What that means is I just spin balance it to make sure that it's even all the way around. Then I weigh the pistons. I do the exact same thing as I weigh pistons, pin, everything, and then the big end, little end. And then I match the little end to the piston so that way they get really close. And then I weigh the big ends. And all you're trying to do is just make them all match. But other than that, there's not like, you're not getting a technically a bob weight because it's in line. It's not at a V. And the reason for the bob weight is because you have a force and a force, counteracting each other at 90 degrees. So, but on a 6-cylinder, just if it's not going over 4,500 RPM, just get them close within a gram or so, or even a few grams. Some of them I just slap together and don't even have an issue.
Let's see. Let's see here. Star Performance said, did the main cap oil pump porting smoothing today? Actually, that's about as far as I normally go. I don't think Chevrolet has that many problems with it. I think that's probably about all you do need to go. The one thing I do know of about the Chevrolet is I did this engine as a Vortec, and it has a 3/4 inch pickup tube on the factory oil pump. So that may be something that would be interesting to you, is get a 96, 7, 8 Vortec motor or whatever it is up to like 2002 and use the factory oil pump, but it has a higher volume capable pickup side.
Yeah.
Vintage Adventure Drive says the back pressure kills horsepower always. Yep, regardless if it's the oil system or the exhaust system, it's going to rob horsepower.
Absolutely.
Yep. LC2 Kids says, Dallas, think you said the E00 and the
You probably meant to say 300.
Oh, you probably did. It is right there next to it. Okay. The 300 and the Buick V6 front timing covers are the same. I want to add the Buick 350 shares the same front cover as well. Yeah. Okay. So the 300, the Buick 215 has its own timing cover because it has a timing mark on a different spot. But as long as you get the correct harmonic damper and the correct timing cover, they're going to line up, right? The Buick 300 has its own timing cover as well because it puts the timing marker and the harmonic damper mark in the same spot, as like a later V6 Buick and a 350. The problem is it does not have the outer bolt holes on the water jackets up at the top, the two outer bolt holes. It doesn't have those on the 300. You go to a 350 Buick and a later V6 Buick, and it has those outer bolt holes. The 350 Buick has the timing mark like a 300, and then your regular V6 Buick one has that weird bolt-on timing mark with the plastic doohickey deal that you put on there that you can't find. That's your actual timing marker. What I have found to be the best is this. I used a later V6 Buick, which has the 5/8 pickup timing, a 5/8 pickup on the timing cover, and it's drilled for that 5/8. And I use it on a 300 or a 350 Buick, and the timing mark is in the same spot, but you use the plastic dealie that the V6 did, because you can actually have a timing mark up to, like, say 15 degrees. I think it actually goes to like 20. So, but that's the way I've been doing it. None of them are the same. They're easily identifiable, and they will work if you interchange, with the exception of putting the early 300 stuff on like I think the V6 Buick and the later 350 Buick, because I believe those holes are not blind, that it leaves uncovered. So I just take the later V6 and bolt it on the 300, and then I actually drill those two holes out using the timing cover as a guide. And then you thread them, and voila, there you go. Okay. So Nick the Van Man says the Dallas and Shane, the fluid in that C6 looks like red chrome paint. Dude, that sucker's done.
Yeah.
I don't know what's
strain and long metal hairs, long strands, maybe clutch disc. Yeah.
You know what? I know what this. I think I do know what this is. I had this problem with the Turbo 400. I bought not an aftermarket, a replacement OEM torque converter, and the torque converter failed. I'll bet this thing is having the same problem. I wonder if it's a new converter, and the thrust in the converter failed, and all that metal went in there and chewed your third gear.
Ate it up.
Yeah. I'm wondering if that's the problem. Let's see. Clayton's Toolbox says, I want to run a velocity stack on a single 4-barrel with no air filter. I hear that a velocity stack is bad for power. Is that true? No. They always make more power.
Always. It directs the air.
Yeah. Is that due to stack moving through the air at high speed? No, no matter what, the air stack or the velocity stack always seems to make more power, because it essentially acts like a funnel. If you watch Engine Masters, any of the Engine Masters,
laminar flow. It's like laminar flow.
Well, remember that one they did on Engine Masters, the salad bowl. Yeah, salad bowl really freaking made a big difference. All right. So, yeah, go with your velocity stack. It'll be great. Vintage Adventure drives my A904, doesn't have reverse when cold. It'll go into reverse when hot, but after a few hours sitting, I have to push the car back. I'm fixing it with an 833 4-speed. Oh, you know what? This guy, I saw his video. This is one of the guys that's doing the Triple Crown class.
Oh, okay, cool. Awesome.
Yeah. So, welcome. Yeah, I didn't recognize you at first. Okay. Okay, Michael Schmidt saying 4 corner weights. Are your cars serious enough that requires suspension analysis and adjustments for leaf springs? What is normally done for adjustments? Oh man, I'm telling you what, you open a whole new can of worms when you start scaling a car.
Yes.
And you'll be amazed at like 1 inch of ride height, what it does to the weight distribution on the car.
Yeah, for real. In fact, why I've done so much welding on this is that there's a lot of things I'm doing that I'm not showing, but the car literally now is almost at perfect 50-50 balance with me sitting in the car, fuel and everything. And just doing that, just by lowering the back, raising the front, I mean, just little things, moving the front axle tiny bit, an 1/8 of an inch, it makes that much of a difference. I went from like 49.5 to 50-50. So yes, it's a can of worms.
Yeah, a huge, big difference when you start weighing each individual corner and changing some ride height. But the good thing is, like, this is where the Mopar wins with the torsion bar, right? Because if it's a stock factory setup and you start scaling it out, you add an inch to, let's say, the driver's side corner,
Yeah.
it'll throw 400 pounds over the driver's or the passenger side rear by doing that. It's just weird things like that. And you have to look at the scale and figure out what you want to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of drive towards that. But man, scaling a car opens up a whole new world of stuff.
Yeah. When you get scales too, it gives you a whole new thing to start wasting Saturdays and Sundays on.
Yeah, you can spend the whole day messing with it. Easy.
You
Let's see.
are.
Google Garage says, Shane, have the DLC coated hydraulic lifters come out yet for small block Fords? All I could find was for solid lifters.
I don't know. I'm a little busy at the second. I'm in the
Well, didn't
engineering
you have
area.
that? Don't you have that flyer? Do you have that flyer there still?
I don't know if I still have it here somewhere. I posted it somewhere at some point.
It
But
had. Well, the reason why I say that is it had the part numbers.
yeah, it
And,
did. I don't remember, but I will find out, because I do know that we were just waiting for a whole bunch of stuff to finally show up. So if I don't have your number or something, I'll text John, and John will get a hold of you or something. I'll let you know.
Oh. Okay. Nick the Van Man, did you reuse an old converter that was full of crap from a C6 dying before? Now, I think that thing was brand new.
Yeah, and that's usually the worst things when they're brand new. Oh, but he gave us a super chat.
Yeah, well, thanks, Nick. I didn't even know you sent that. I just saw that now. So thanks, man. Hopefully that helps out. But I really think it's your converter. And I think if you know who made that converter, it's time to knock on their door. Come and knock on my door. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. Nick says, yes, new Reman torque converter. I got bit by one of those.
Mm-hmm.
When was that? 2 years ago? 3 years ago?
Yeah.
I got a brand new Continental converter that was it's not like Continental like you're thinking, like tires. It's some converter company in Iowa. It's like a blue color. I threw it in. It was supposed to be like for a GMC motorhome with a turbo hydromatic 425 front wheel drive dealie. But they fit in the Turbo 400. It's virtually the same thing. And I dropped it in my Suburban, and that sucker lasted, I don't know, maybe a month.
Yeah, you know what it is when they cut open those converters, they cut them open on a lathe. So they're cutting them, and those shards get inside the converter. Usually what they do is they cut it open. If they're looking at it really carefully and they see that, hey, there's nothing wrong with this, they'll literally will slam it back together, put new thrust washers in it, send it back over, and get it welded without it being 100% taken apart. So everything that they just cut off sometimes goes right back into the converter. And we've seen that a few times at
Mine was the
TCI.
thrust washer actually failed. It shredded the thrust washer, and it was like, I put my finger inside that converter because I looked in there and you could see there's like a bunch of garbage in there, right? And I stuck my finger in there, and it was like, I don't know, I was trying to, it was like Freddy Krueger was giving me a hand job on my finger. It was literally like freaking shards of metal just sticking out of my finger when I pulled it out.
That was probably the sprag that blew up then.
I don't know. That whole converter, it sounded, when it first started going bad, it sounded so weird. It sounded like
squeal.
No. Have you ever had your stuff junky? All you junky people will be able to understand this, because us poor folks, this is our junk every day.
Yeah.
If you have ever had a car with bad motor mounts that are sagging and worn out, and you put a new fan on, or you adjusted the fan and it starts hitting the fan shroud.
Yep.
That's what it sounded like. And I didn't know what it was. And I'm like, man, I must have broken motor mount. So of course, what do? I do the normal hillbilly thing. Put the emergency brake on, put a block in front of the tire, throw it down and drive, and then open the hood and then give it some fuel from under the hood.
Yeah.
Right. And it didn't even move. And the fan wasn't hitting anything. And I'm like, what is that god awful noise? And I realized it's coming from the back of the motor. And I'm like, holy crap. I bet that's the converter. That's the only thing it sounds like. It's like a fan. Mm-hmm. And that's when it fragged my no lie, 2,200 mile, 1974 Turbo 400. It was a GM OEM piece that had been wrecked. My dad pulled it out of a wrecked car that was brand new. I got wrecked at the dealership. So, okay. Yeah, I was pretty mad. Like, and then the company was like, "Yeah, we warranty the converter, but we're not your tranny." Like, well, fuck you. I'm done buying your stuff now. No, that's you send out junk and then frag somebody's tranny. Well, too bad. So I'll bet you that's what that was, Nick DeVana, man. I'm sorry, man. And it's a tough pill to swallow.
It is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is another good comment to follow. Nick DeVan, man, clean those lines and transcooler and back flush back and forth. I did the same thing. I did. I pulled the tranny out and I left the lines hooked. You know, they were just essentially in the truck, but they were going up to the transmission, or I mean to the radiator. And what I did is I took the top line on the GM is the return, I believe. I can't remember. And I filled it full of an entire can of brake clean. And I just watched it run out the other end into a drain pan. And when it stopped running out, I let it sit for like a good 30 minutes. And I just put compressed air on that sucker and blew it all the way through. And you would be amazed at the amount of crap coming out of there. But I did the same thing back up through it around the other way. And I think I did it the third time coming down. But I didn't want any of that metal in my new transmission, which was that switch pitch that Professor P did for me over at TCI.
Another thing I do is I get some diesel fuel. It's cheap, and I just run diesel fuel backwards with a pump, and then so that way it goes through and it picks up. Just put an inline filter, and then if you can warm up the diesel fuel, it just runs right through and it cleans that thing right out of there. And just back flush it.
Okay. There you go. See that Danny Boyd's saying the velocity stack gets the airstream into the perfect shape for the carb opening.
Yep.
Okay. SSR Performance says I ordered DLC lifters Monday. Should be here today.
Hydraulic Chevrolet. I do know the Chevrolets were in stock. I'm just not sure when the Fords are, if the Fords showed up yet. But yeah, in fact, he used the brand new system that we have just for the No Name National guys. He was on there.
Oh, he says right here, thanks to the Edelbrock deal.
Yeah. They came over and they were like, "It's actually working." I said, "See, I told you."
Danny Boyd says this. Never trust any part manufactured after 2010 or so. I'm right there with you. I am trying to put as much factory crap as I can back in stuff. Let's see. SSR Performance says Hillborn injection can all be different length, like you described, Danny. But and Danny was saying that anyone ever try separate velocity stacks for each carb venturi?
Now I have. And I did it on Dominator a while back, but it wasn't getting the correct air to the bleeds because the velocity stack was outside of where the air bleed was. Because it was one of those that we tried 3D printing it, so we didn't getting the correct signal to the air bleeds. So I just like having the velocity stack on the whole carburetor, because that way if you have air bleeds, but a velocity stack individual, if you have like a single carb with the velocity with the bleeds in it, or like Hillborn or Crowder injection or whatnot.
Okay. I'm going to come back to some other ones here in a second, but this is an interesting one. Mohawk 62 says Andy did a very comprehensive video on velocity stacks and how they work.
Perfect.
Yeah. So head over to Andy. I'm assuming that's Andy Wood.
I'm assuming, yeah.
Yeah, and head over to Andy Wood's channel at Unity Motorsports Garage and check it out if you really want to find out everything you need to know about velocity stacks. Let's see. Vintage Adventure Drive says I got bit by O'Reilly's torque converters a few times. One came in cracked where it meshes with the front pump. One came in that was wrong in the box, and one looked like it had fresh paint over it. Okay, so you get a lot of the buy returns. I don't mess with. I never buy torque converters or transmission parts from major box automobile parts houses. I try not to.
Bottom of the
If I
barrel.
find something that works, I try to stick with something that thing until I can't do it any longer. But
it's rare that a converter is going to go out unless something takes it out. Usually heat.
I don't trust the converter. After I bought that one,
Yeah.
it literally lasted like 2 weeks and it was fragged. And what was sad is I took out a perfectly fine 40-year-old torque converter that the only reason I took it out was because I wanted something with a tighter stall. Because I was using like a vehicle that had a ton more weight, and it was causing it to have, it was a higher stall, and I didn't want that. I wanted something that was lower. So, let's see. Danny Boy says SR performance. Yes, it's more like a Venturi per cylinder. Okay. OC2 Kid says got a comp cam with all the lobes were bigger than the bearing journals. Sent it back, comp covered, shipping back and regrinding it. Check those new cams with a straight edge. This one ruined my cam bearings. Oh, yeah, I don't doubt that, dude. If the journal's bigger than Professor P and I actually talked about this because I ran into this. I knew that the Buick 300 had smaller cam bearings than a Buick 350, but they're tapered as they go back, just like kind of like a Mopar is, right? Yep. They're all different sizes as it goes back. But the number one is the same size as all of the 350 Buick and 455 Buick cam bearings. So when I sent him a 350 Buick camshaft and I was having him put a 300 stock profile on it, we ran into a problem where, I'm sorry, it was a 350 Buick cam. We were putting a stock 300 profile on it, but it has the valve arrangement of the 350 Buick, but it's a cam profile from a 300 essentially is what it is. So you're taking a 350 Buick cam and turning it into a 300 cam, but it's got the intake valve arrangement and exhaust valve arrangement of the 350 Buick. They had to cut all the journals down to smaller size, and that required cutting all of the lobes down so they would fit through the journals, right? And it made the cam a little bit, I guess it's a smaller base circle. Is that how you do it?
Yeah, a little smaller base circle. And then that changes the profile slightly because whenever you make everything smaller, the information becomes smaller. So it changed it up a little bit, but nothing that a stock engine wouldn't notice, but still.
Yeah, but this one literally is for my What If 300. And if I ever finish the intake manifold, we will get that one fired up here soon.
I'm looking forward to that one.
Huh?
I'm looking forward to that one because I put that was a lot of work into that thing.
Well, the good thing is I have the intake halfway done. Well, no, it's not halfway done. I have it almost halfway removed. And then I got to take it to somebody and have it welded all up. And hopefully I got it halfway removed. Then I got to cut it down and then I got to have somebody weld it all back up. But so we'll see. That one will be coming down this year. Mr. Rodder's neighborhood. There's also another 300 Buick that's going to be the surprising one. It's for Clint Street Machines 300 Buick. Originally we just took my the mule motor, the mule 300 that I slapped together with garbage, and it was just like laying on the floor of this shop when I picked it up and laying there for 20 years. So we threw it together. They put it in, Clint and I got it together and then took it over to his place, and I got some parts from Professor P and Edelbrock, and we got the thing dropped in his S10 and took it to No Name Nationals. He was impressed with the 300 Buick on how it ran, and it was just an 8-to-1 compression 4-barrel 300 Buick. But what I did was I talked him into doing something like, hey, let's spend some money on one and build something that's pretty cool. So the one we got coming up is the one that I'm calling, you'll see the video, it's going to be called the Boogie Nights 300. And the reason why I'm calling it that is because it has a long connecting rod, right? It has a 350 Buick 6.385-inch long rod in it. So we're calling it the Boogie Nights 300. But it has 3.8-liter Ford pistons in it and 350 Buick rods and 10.8-to-1 compression and the 64 aluminum heads and aluminum intake manifold. So as a street motor, this thing's going to be pretty freaking stout, I think. Okay. Okay, Nick the Van Man, you got to stop sending us cash, dude. You need to fix your tranny.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm pulling the transmission this weekend to go back to the builder. It drives like shit anyway, so I'm thinking of going 3,500 stall and a F303 cam. You already got my take on this, dude. I already told you. Don't go with the F303 cam. Do not.
Is it the
Don't.
B or the E? It's the B.
The B or the E is the two awesome ones,
Yes.
right? The rest of them were on afterthought. The F,
Yeah.
the X, all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the B or E, they're the same. They're pretty. One's like 220, and the other one's like 228. One's on like a 110, one's on a 108 or something like that.
The E is the more docile of them. It's the
Mm-hmm.
emissions friendly one. The
Yeah, that's the
B is
wider
the hairy
separation.
one.
Yeah, that's the
right?
one's a tight separation. Yeah.
The B is made for like road racing and stock car racing and stuff like that. It's got really good mid range, not a lot of low end. In a 302, it's almost like abysmal because as you drive it on the street, it's like nothing until you're up at the famous 2,000 RPM on a 302, where you just turn on the faucet of power, right? The E-cam makes it streetable. If it was me, man, I'd leave the cam in that you got in there now, and I'd find a converter combination in a tranny that works. But I think what's killing you is, one, you're up against a 4,000-pound vehicle with a 3-speed automatic, and it's got a 308 gear so that you can drive it around on the highway.
Is
That's
it that
what's killing.
C6?
Yeah.
Oh, and a C6. That's the killer of power right there.
Yeah, it's robbing 35, 40 horse from you. And
45, almost
you think
50.
it's that high?
Yes, that's the worst one. C6 is the worst one.
Oh, and then the rear end gear is just killing it. I think would be better is if you could get some kind of overdrive in the thing and do your AOD like you were talking about. If you're going to spend the money to do a tranny, do an AOD, put the stock converter in it, or call Pulido and get a TCI used to have an AOD like Saturday night special 2,500 stall piece.
Yeah,
That's the one I would do.
We don't do AOD transmissions anymore. To actually build them. Yeah, just the converters.
What about the hardened input shafts?
I think so. Yeah, I think we still do that. Yeah.
Okay.
We sell the parts. We're just not putting them together anymore. There's just not a market for them anymore.
Oh, I'm just talking about the converter. Get a converter. They used to make a 2,500 stall for an AOD. That was actually not heavy on price. I think it was probably like $300, $400. It might be $500 by now, but it's been a while since I've done one of those. But I think AOD with like a 373 gear would be the ticket.
I'm going to skip ahead. Nick the Van Man says the E303 is 220 on a 110. The B303 is 221 on a 112. And the almighty F-Cam is 228 on a 114. Yes, that's what I remember. I do remember that there was the three of them. And the E303, that was the good one because that was the 220 on a 110. And that thing would hit hard really fast. The B303, that one was actually kind of emissions legal. And the F, the only killer I hated with the F is that it was on a 114, so it was just flat. It really just didn't have anything except for just top end only. That's all the way at like 743.
Okay, so we'll get to some questions here. And
yeah,
I am an E303 cam guy with the 1.7 roller rockers. That's a magic combination right there.
Yeah.
Buick 350 V8 power says small block Buick questions. Quadrajet base spacer, don't have room under the hood for a thick one. I milled mine front to back to get carb level and U-joint angle correction are correct. Open spacer or 4 holes in TA stage 1 intake. Okay. And you don't have a room for a lot. So to tell you the truth, what I think, if you don't have a room for a lot, you need to mill that center divider down, say like 3/4 of an inch, half an inch, 3/4 of an inch. And then when you put your spacer on, okay, the spacer that I've seen here that works the best in this combination is going to be your open single hole, big square hole spacer. It's going to work the best. It's going to add more horsepower. But if you can't get anything but like a 1/2 inch spacer, cut the center divide down by 1/2 inch and then bull mode. Let's see. Buick Smith says, Dallas, would it be feasible to enlarge the engine cam bearings in the 300 to be able to use all the 350 Buick profiles? Yes, but I did not want to do that until I knew that this was even going to work. That's why I had to. You sent me the camshaft that we ended up cutting down to put a 300 profile on it to put in the 300 Buick. So that's what I got. Ford 3.8 is the same bore and stroke as the Buick 3.8. No, it's actually like 10 thousandths over bore. It has a 3.811 inch bore, and that's what I ended up using in the Buick 300. The Buick 300, a 60 over piston is a 3.810. So this was 61 over. But I just used the 3.8 liter Ford pistons, and it actually has the same wrist pin height or wrist pin size as the earlier V6 or as the later V6 Buicks. I am going to have to bush the 350 Buick rod to use the 905 wrist pin size from the Ford small block or from the Ford V6.
I went to go get some metering blocks.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. He's asking the questions, and I already told him. Oh. Hey, Mr. Barkley Schmidt's in here.
Oh, Barkley, what's up, man?
Bud? I haven't seen you in a while.
They got a really bitchin' race coming up this weekend over there at it's a mini bike race, like really fast ones. I think it's this weekend.
Barkley's telling me he wants to do a Dallas official call out again for 2025, 2 out of 3 rematch. Dude, you're cramping my style here. I already have something in the works. I haven't told anybody, so don't feel bad about it. But I have something I wanted to do this year at No Name Nationals.
Don't say anything.
I want to go after the burnout contest.
Yeah,
this year, and I'll be up for some race. You know what? I can't get what I'm going to bring to this burnout contest. You know what, Barkley? I will do a 2 out of 3 rematch, but I'll have to bracket race you for it because I can't run as fast as your Cutlass with what I'm bringing.
That's a good one.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, that'll be good.
You know what? I know how to do this one. This will be cool. What if we did a backwards bracket race where the tree is not staggered? We both leave at the same time on an instant green, and then essentially our time is figured. We're going to finish at different times, but you won't know whether to let out or not.
How about this? You guys don't tell it. It's not on the window. You write
right. Well, that's what
paper.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do is a backwards bracket race where you don't even you would call up to the tower and tell them our time.
Yeah, right on a piece of paper, window. Go up there, and then you leave.
Actually, it's me and Barkley, but neither one of us got a box. I don't think. I'm just gonna. My car doesn't even have a place to put a time on it. So,
well, don't say anything, man.
I know. I'm sorry. I gotta keep my mouth shut. All right,
keep your mouth shut.
Yeah, I'll do it, but we got to do a bracket race. All right. Dakota's timeout says, have y'all ever tried different low profiles for different cylinders?
Yes. And different LSA lobe separation angles. So you'd run different lobe separation angles on the center 4, and then also different ones on the outer 4. It's a big circle track thing for different runner lengths.
All right. So Blue Grit Garage says, one of the hot setup with the E-cam with the 1.7 rockers. It was. Yep. That's the way to go right there. If you're going to stab a letter cam in it, put an E-cam in it with a 1.7 rocker, and you will be absolutely smiling from ear to ear, especially from like 2,200 to like 4,500, $5,000.
Yeah. I like the one with the tighter LSA. The one was on the 110. That was, for me, was the hot ticket.
Yes. Buick 350 V8 power. You mean divider inside the intake? Yes, I do. That's exactly what you need to cut that down unless you already got it. Well, you can actually do it with it on the car. If it's already mounted on there, just stuff a bunch of rags down in the ports.
Yeah, vacuum it up.
And then vacuum it out. You might want to watch my new Easy 302 video coming out here within the next 48 hours. And I show you how nitty-gritty I got on it with the aluminum and the grinder and the vacuum cleaner. So
yeah, actually there's someone in the comments saying something, and I was going to bring this up, but I just forgot to say it. But if you take one of those letter cams and just add, say, 5 or 6 degrees on the exhaust duration, it makes it a whole nother camshaft, like even better.
Hey, there you go. This is what you need to put on your next shirt. For the Cookie Monster. When the cookies drop, the BS stops. Let's see.
I can tell you something though, is that me and I will tell you this. Me and Joe are basically gearing up to get our race on here soon. And what I'm going to do is I'm only going to do one change at a time. I'm only going to do the suspension change, but we're going to be doing a 2 out of 3 heads up, run what you brung type of deal, pro tree type of deal. And I'm not going to put it on the 85. I'm going to keep it back on the race gas, so that way it's only one combination. I'm trying to figure out the suspension, but yeah, we're going to have that coming up here pretty soon. As soon as I get my pump back, we're going to start scheduling that. So I'll either go to his house or he's going to come to my house. We're not really sure. Or we might even meet at Sykeston. Who knows?
So Bobby Frizzell says, forget the layer cams, go custom grind. You'll never regret it. I think I've said this on here on the lives before. The E303 camshaft and the 171 Roller Rockers used to be the ticket on the GT40P heads. You used to run all 3 of those, and you had a magic streetable, very mean combination. And if you put nitrous on it, it was even better. What we found, though, was if you were to take the same exact profile from the E303 and call comp, and you have a custom camshaft ground with the same exact profile, it'll make 15 more horse than the factory Ford cam. And that's just because, one, all the lobes are consistent all the way around, because Ford's production tolerances are kind of willy-nilly on that thing, aftermarket-wise, right? But I think they were all ground originally by who's the one that's long gone? Crane cams. I think Crane cams ground all those. And I think the production tolerance on them was just poo. But what you find is when you change to an actual billet camshaft blank and you make the same profile on it, the billet blank doesn't flex like the cast iron core does. And that's where some of your horsepower comes from. But Mama M3 really likes Joe's sleeper truck.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I like that.
And 38 Racing saying that I just need to write my ET on a $100 bill and hand it in. I don't know what we'll do. I'll just call it to the tower. Wait, you guys will have to see. I mean, I've already said what I wanted to do, but you'll have to see. It'll be good.
It's going to be
good. It's definitely going to be different.
Mm-hmm. And when you guys decide to race, what we'll do is I'll have them written down and I'll hand deliver them up to the top, to the tower. And then you guys got to change it each round.
Let's see. Danny Boyd says a billet cam is easier on cam bearings. I don't think there's a problem. Is it easier on them?
It is, because there's less flex in it.
Really? Okay.
Less harmonics.
I guess it would probably, those journals would be less, or would be more square all the time.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's also less harmonics. The cast iron wants to flex all over the place.
Okay. Well, yeah. So there you go. There you have it.
Yeah.
The billet cam is easier on cam bearings, which would probably mean you would retain oil pressure longer. But if you look at the LS, when they went to the LS motor at GM, they went to a much larger cam journal size. The bearing is large, and there's a downside to that. There's a plus side. Generally, when you make it large, you can have a really nasty profile on that thing because the diameter is larger. Just like Professor P was saying earlier, if you make it smaller, it gets less information on it, right? Well, you make it larger, and it has more information on it.
One's a single play record, one's an LP. That's basically what it is.
The downside to it when you got large cam bearings like that is you need a buttload of oil pressure because you got a lot of bearing surface area.
It's also the wheel speed goes way up on the roller.
Way up. And it's easier to cook a bearing, and it's easy to spin a bearing the bigger the diameter you go because the more friction surface area it has. So there's a lot of there's pluses and minuses to everything you do.
Yeah.
Let's see. Bobby Frizzell saying that I need to do heads up racing and turn the scoreboards off, keep them guessing. You just need the wind light. I don't know. I don't think I can make something that has enough horsepower to keep up with Barkley for what I'm wanting to do. Let's face it, guys, that Cutlass makes some serious steam. It does, because think of it like this. It runs about as fast as my T-Bird does, but it weighs like, let's say 1,000 pounds more. Okay. And that means that big block Chevrolet in there is making some serious steam. It's probably close to 1,000 horsepower, I'd say. Let's see. Buick Smith says, Shane, is there a discount on custom grinds through the 3C sign up?
Absolutely. Everything that you buy from them, everything is 15 to 10 to 15% off, 15 to 10% off, whatever it is. So they're discounting everything, but that's something you can send it in on that email we sent to you. I think what was it? ASO? Was it ASO at if you go to John Wilburn's live last week, we put it on there, but that's your contact information. But yes, everything is 100% discounted.
And that's something I meant to bring up at the very beginning, at the very, very beginning of this live was, hey, so my thoughts and prayers go out to John Wilburn. His mom just passed away this week. So I'm sure he's having a really tough go at it right now. So if you get the opportunity, go look at John's newest video, which was a tribute to his mother, and just give it a good old thumbs up and smash the like button on that thing. He is in our group. Everybody here is pretty much in the same group. So just go give John Wilburn some love, and put a comment on there. But it's sad that this has happened, because I've met his mom a couple of times at No Name Nationals, actually, is where I met her. So if you met her before, you know that how much she meant to John. So take that time to show John some love. Let's see. Dylan Levi saying that did someone say heads up racing? We did, and I saw where you posted on Facebook where you were talking about Cletus was having a tough time getting his 5.3 turbocharged 73 El Camino, which is virtually half of your car with a mullet in the back, down the track. And did you see that dude was putting 21 pounds of boost on a stock motor and it wasn't gacking?
He ran a 9?
That guy, huh?
He ran a 9 something, didn't he?
Oh yeah, he went deep in the 9s. It would have went like a 970 or something. Yeah, but I did see it also skating around like it had like oil for back tires. It probably went one of them. It ran like a 990, and it probably went 1,600 feet on a 1320 track. Right?
Exactly.
It was all over the place. Yeah.
We'll get through this line of questioning. We'll talk about metering. I went and grabbed some metering blocks. I got a few of them, so we'll talk about power valves and
let's see. Junkyard D wants to know: are the scoreboards going to be lit for the Triple Crown? Probably so. None of those cars should be fast enough that they're. The reason why we do the scoreboard off. What's that?
We'll leave it up to them, to the racers. We'll have a vote on it.
Sure. I don't think it really matters. Really, I'm with Bobby Frizzell on some of this stuff. I really think just a wind light is all you need.
Exactly. I agree with that 100%, but some people want the scoreboard, some people don't. So we'll let them. At that point, if it's a heads up race, all you need to see is who wins.
Okay. Vintage Adventure Drives. Question about the Triple Crown weight brakes. Does a negative 100-pound weight brake turn my 2952 minimum to a 3,052 minimum weight? I don't know what you're quite asking me. When you generally get a weight brake, let's say you're running a stick shift, you can run at a lighter weight.
Mm-hmm. Unless you're running an LS, then you have to add weight. He's probably
not if it's a stick. If it's a stick, if anybody's running a stick, they automatically get 100 pounds off.
Yeah, but if they run an LS, they add the weight. there's 100-pound. You have to add 100 pounds for an LS or anything that's non-distributor, distributorless.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
That's not entirely true because you can buy a timing cover that has a distributor for an LS.
Yes.
So, but I think you're making it confusing. This guy, he's going from an automatic to a manual, and he's getting a 100-pound weight break. So if you watch this video, he even said it earlier on. He's pulling the A904 out, and he's putting the A833 in.
Okay, good. Okay.
And so he would get a 100-pound weight break. So that means if your car, based on the cubic inch, 9 pounds times however big the engine is, which I think in your video said you're like 328 or 330 cubic inch motor. Take that times 9. That would tell you what your minimum weight needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then subtract 100. And that's where you should be at. That's how much your car has to weigh at a minimum.
Now, but way more because you want to get to the 3,000 pounds.
Right. But here's the thing. Like, 5 pounds over is not a big deal. So that way you can use some fuel. Think about it. Like, you get on the track and that thing uses 1 gallon of fuel. That's 8 pounds less than it was when it started.
Yeah.
Right. So the big one is when it's ready for weight. See, if it was me, I wouldn't take the 100-pound weight break in this case. Mm-mm. If you were going to be at 3,052 pounds, and then I'd come in and write 3,000 pounds on it. That's what I would write.
Exactly.
Right, because that way you can run the bigger tire. That's what I would do. I would go after the more tire in this case.
100%. I would try to keep it over 3,000 pounds.
You're actually in a really good spot.
Really?
Because you could run it down at 29.52, but I would run it right at 3,000 so you can run the bigger slicks.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would do.
Exactly what I would do too. I would add weight in the back where you need it and just get it about, say 30 pounds over. And so that way with the fuel, with the light fuel and 30 pounds, that way you're just right there. That way you got the big tire, and that way you can hammer on it.
Let's see here. Dylan Levi saying the scoreboard's on, gives the viewer something to look at. If they aren't there, also it shows how close the race truly was. I think you can do it with just a camera at the stripe,
mm-hmm.
And then a wind light. But I mean, it doesn't really matter what they want. If they want to do it no clocks on, we can do it clocks on. They want to do it clocks off, we can do it clocks off. Yeah. It doesn't really matter. None of them should be fast enough. The only reason we were ever doing the clocks off for a lot of the stuff was plausible deniability, right? It kept me from getting in trouble with the SFI for a lot of the 28-10-5 cars that weren't running a 750 plus cage.
Exactly. Because there were some people at this last race that needed the 750 cage, man. There was a few people there.
Let's see. All right. Dylan Levi says, if I don't make my car go a 5 this year, I'm parking it and building a Triple Crown car for Brooke, and I'm just going to be a crew chief. Man, I'm telling you, you should put that 6-liter together with that 4.8 crank and then just go out there and let her eat, and that sucker will run a 5.
Yeah. Put the car on a diet. You yourself go on a diet and have some fun.
Okay. No boards keep the eyes on the cars.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like it. I really like no scoreboards. I like old school wind light.
Plus, man, Andy says it's the best. We got Ron Ward, man. We got the best around.
Let's see. Bobby Frizzell says, I know everyone wants to run the 28s, but those 26 guys are crazy fast. So you can go fast on a small tire. It is. Okay. If you guys haven't figured it out, the smaller the contact patch, the faster the car is going to be. Okay.
On the top end. Yeah.
Right. Mile an hour wise, it should be considerably faster. If you can get it off the line on a 26, I'd do it. But man, when you got, this isn't just 2 inches that you're gaining. This is 2 inches times pi is what you're gaining. So it's a lot of surface area that you're gaining from that.
Plus, it's the width too. It's not only the rollout. It's not the tractor this way, but it's also the size
The
this
height.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It's the forward contact patch. Yeah. There you go. So, but Andy comes in from the top rope to let everybody know that what he votes on this. Yeah.
From downtown, right?
Frizzell Racing says to me, a perfect light is a flashlight or instant green. Heads up, no scoreboard, but I dig the old school way. I do like heads up. I really like instant green. Shane and I started doing a lot of instant green stuff. We didn't race together in instant green. It was more or less when we started doing all these events where we did the instant green, when we realized that, man, that instant green leaves a lot on the tree.
Half a second.
Yeah. And
most people are
like when we were doing match race stuff, it was pro tree, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is cars had to be paired within a 10th. Well, when we got out to, like, say, the Midwest, and nobody was running a circuit that was like 10.5 NA. Oh, and did you see the new 10.5 NA rule? There was some new 10.5 NA rule that came out, and I thought was pretty cool. But there wasn't as many cars matched around the same ET. See, there was a lot of us that were at the 640 to 620 area, like a lot of us. And when you came out here, there wasn't that many. So the easy thing to do was throw up the instant green. And like you got like a half a second variation. And then the one thing I will say, though, is that if you want to see the variation, go back and look at the videos. Me and Michael Yielding first round. That'll show you the half second variation. And then I get drove around half track. All right. Levi's backyard performance for Brazil 28 ain't 26s ain't too much different than a 28. Any more technology has come too far for the pure tire rule. Oh, dude, that tire is getting awfully small. You're gonna find out.
But here's the thing: is that Beaterbomb just went. He's set a brand new record on the 26s. But remember, these cars have got traction control, all these computers, and the whole idea is that of this race that we're building, we're taking that out. So all that traction control and everything that you're trying to do, pull timing, pull this, and then add it in as you go down the track. That's why you can run these smaller tires at such a high speed. Is you're pulling out all this power and then rolling it in on the top end where you're able to. The whole idea for our tires, this is only an 8th mile race, is essentially the hit, because these cars aren't very light.
I'm thinking it's you're probably not going to see much of a difference between them. You're going to find most of this is going to be off the hit. Is where the big deal is on these things.
Yep.
You know, the motors are fairly small. If it was me, like I was out there trying to build something, I mean, you could go with the biggest, baddest head you could possibly get, and yeah, it's going to roll in a ton of horsepower. But the rest of the car is going to just murder that because, God, it's going to be like 3,300 pounds. It's not going to get rolling easy. I think what you're going to find is the guys that do the best are going to be around 330 cubes. They're going to be right at the 3,000 pound mark, but they're going to have the bigger tire.
Yep, that's exactly right. And mid-range is going to be the key on this one.
I think so. I think that's where you're going to see the 327 Ford and 302, or a 327 Chevrolet and a 302 Ford really start singing this class.
Yeah.
There you go. SSR performance. I will need no traction control at 350 horsepower. No, you won't. And it'll keep the cost down and the fun level high. That was the whole point. You know, this one, if you guys aren't thinking outside the box, Triple Crown class. Okay. You got heavyweight. You got, let's say, I say low horsepower. It's not going to be 1,000 horsepower motor. You can't make it. You have to either spin it 10,000 plus RPM, right? Which nobody really has the budget for that. I mean, SSR performance, I bet they can go out there. They can do it. They can do 10,000 RPM. One pass, right? Otherwise, you're going to want this thing to be a fairly low RPM performer, something nothing above like 75, 8,000 RPM. And you're going to want good low-end torque. That's what you're going to want. And you're probably going to want, I don't know if I would go out on a limb and say dual plane intake manifold, but because they're small cubic inch, and you could make some good horsepower to make up for that. So you could gear them to make the torque, and that's probably what I would do. But I would find something like the lightest wheels I could possibly find. Some used Bogarts or
drag lights.
Yeah, drag light is a cheap one that you can do. I would find aluminum drums. I would try to take as much rotational mass out of it as I could. The drive shaft, I would probably go to the junkyard. I'd spend the entire day looking for a full-size 3/4 ton truck with aluminum drive shaft, and then take it and have it cut down and put in my ride. I would try to get as much weight out of it as I could, and then put the weight where I wanted it. But you take it all out of the reciprocal rolling, or I mean the what is it? Sprung weight?
Unsprung.
Rotational is unsprung. Okay.
Yeah, just unsprung weight, and then rotational also too. Hey, at 8:00 when we get through these here real quick, I'll talk about these.
No, let's go ahead. We can talk about them now.
Okay. So someone wanted to talk about metering blocks and power valves. So this is a Dominator metering block. This is a 3-circuit. So this is your basic, main well right here. This is going to be your intermediate circuit, and then this is your idle circuit that comes in right in down right there. And this is a plug, so this would be on my secondary side, but this is where the power valve would be. Behind the power valve, when you plug it, it doesn't work, but behind the power valve, you have these little holes right there. Now this one is non-adjustable. Like I said, this is an old Dominator style. These are our new VRS style metering blocks, and
billet.
Yeah, they're billet. Behind there, you have these little jets right here. So these jets are behind the power valve. So what the power valve does is it closes this up, and this is the air side. This is the fuel side.
Oh, dude, you got a jet. You got a jet in the power valve.
Well, yeah, you got.
That's pretty awesome, because then you can not only can you adjust when it comes in, but you can adjust how much.
Exactly. So you can. So when you're running around when the power valve, you're just cruising. You're running on the main jet. So typically, most of them, like on this size right here, on this non-adjustable one, this is about eight jet sizes. So if you're running a non-power valve, usually jet your carburetor up. 8 is a good starting point. Then you can bring it down. But on these, you can actually put different whole jets in there. So and then with the different you got 2.5, 3.5, 4.5. That's inches of vacuum of when it's going to open. So you can change that out. And then on these are 100% adjustable. So this one here, this is going to be your 2 different circuits. So this is your high speed, your low speed. So I'm sorry, low speed, high speed, secondary. And then this right here is your idle. So this is a true 4-circuit system. And it's a pretty good metering block, man. This thing's awesome. But yeah, that's really what it is. That little jet right there. So when on my car, since I want to be able to, on the E85, I want to keep the plugs a little clean. I jetted it up the 30% by that jet right there. That just by changing that. And then I'm going to change the power valve. So you can drive it around your pits and you're not going to load up your plugs. And when you're driving around on the street, you can adjust that too. So typically what you do is when you're driving around, you put a vacuum on it. And if you're running, say, idle, it's like, say, 14 inches or whatever. Standard is you divide that in half, you go up. So that'd be like a 7.5 or 6.5. That's where you typically start. But what I do is I'll be driving, and with a wideband, I'll put a vacuum gauge on it. And as I start to go up a hill, and you'll see the vacuum come down, and all of a sudden, if it goes rich too soon, then I'll go to a lower power valve setting. So if it was at 6.5 and the power valve's opening and that thing's going dead rich, I'll change it out. So that way I'll go to, like, say, a 5.5, and I'll try that small hill again, and I'll keep going down until it's a 4 or 5. When I had that VRS on my Slant 6, luckily it had like a 6.5 in it, but it was such big valves. It ran just fine. It was getting decent mileage, but when I actually took it out onto the highway and started going up and down hills, I was pulling over and I was changing the power valve on it, and I got that thing all the way down to like almost 2.5. It was the smallest one we made, because it would actually open it up because the car was under such a load at 8,000, 80 miles an hour. It would start to open it up and flood it out. So that's basically what it is. And each one of these has got a little different. This is a different style. I've got a few of them here. These are all our junks, but I like to look at them. These are all like prototypes that were just thrown away. So I always I keep them and study them and use them for parts. I've used a few of these things now for like revalving them for different things, for like, maybe a alternator,
All right. Well, Dizzy Izio says going from a 26 to a 28 is like 26 from a 28 is like 391 to 411s. That's correct. Yep. Changing the gear ratio.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's that drastic, but it's still like kicking it down. Let's see. Andy says get those 583 gears out. Blue Grit Garage says 289 cubic inch, 2,601 pounds minus 100 pounds for the manual. No. If you go back and refer to those rules again, I believe the minimum weight for the whole thing is 2,700 pounds.
Yes.
I don't think you can weigh below that.
No, you cannot. And we did that because I think it was 300. Was it 300 cubes is what we were going to go with the smallest, wasn't it?
Well, you could run it something like a 289. Okay, the idea was the class was meant to be around 333 cubes at 3,000 pounds. That's what it was meant to be around. We already know that small cubic inch, big bore, short stroke 289, 292 cubic inch Chevrolet small block combination would be an absolute murderer. That's why we didn't allow them to drop down below that weight.
Mm-hmm.
It was that reason.
Yeah.
Solely.
And so, so you can run, even if you want to run, say, a straight 6 or whatever, you can still do that. But you got to weigh 2,700 pounds. That's the minimum. I believe it was 2,700 was the minimum weight.
Mama N3 wants to know, can you put the VRS metering block on an old Holly?
No. The reason being is because on an old Holly, if you look here, you'll see how this is a 3-circuit. So an old Holly is only going to have essentially this one and this one right here. This is going to be your basically your idle circuit, and this right here is going to be your power circuit. Now on this one here, you're going to see that this is going to have, that's not a good one. Here, let's see. This is a good one here. Yeah, can you see it here? Yeah. So you're going to have your power circuit, which is right here. That feeds your Venturi, and then you're going to have two different. You're going to have the low speed, high speed, and then you're going to have the idle circuit way out here. So they just won't line up, unfortunately. They're in different spots, and most Hollies are going to be in this style, which is a 4150, are only going to be 2-circuit style carbs. In fact, I have one sitting right here. If you give me a second, I'll grab it. I'll show you what I'm talking about.
All right. Well, I'll answer this question, and we'll come back to this next one real quick. Buick 350 V8 power, small block Buick windage control. Yours looks like Swiss cheese. There's one stock pan on eBay. I don't know what that not to EDA is. On my 350, 5,500 RPM redline, posting GS 118 cam. Would a simple screen be worth it? I put a baffle for stop and go. To tell you the truth, I don't know. I just tried out. You saw what I did on mine. I just flipped it around and I kind of just tacked it into place on that crank scraper, and it's holding it in place. It also has a screen on it. It has a screen on the inside.
Screen works awesome.
Yeah, the screen works good, knocks it down. The only thing I'm concerned about with the screen is I didn't have a means of holding it in place with nuts and bolts like is preferred, nuts and bolts and big washers. And I tacked mine into place with welds, and I'm afraid it might come loose eventually. But we'll find out.
So this right here is a 950. This is a quick fuel, and this is basically your standard style. These are your different air bleeds. This right here is going to be your main, and this right here is going to be your idle air bleed. So your standard, 4150 is only going to really have two. A Dominator typically will come with 2 or 3. Some have 4, some have 5, but that's a really high-end market. What makes this carburetor, the VRS, so special is that you're getting a 4-circuit in this style of packaging, a much smaller packaging. So, yeah, it works really well for what it is.
SR Performance wants to know how does the 4th circuit work?
Well, basically you're taking the intermediate circuit and you're splitting it into 2. So you're going to have a high speed intermediate and a low speed intermediate. And so the difference is like, say on this one here, on this one, you're going to have your main, and then you're going to have like a power valve. So the power valve and the main are working together. Or on this one, I hear you're always going to have at least 2 circuits talking. So you're going to have the power circuit and then the high speed, or you're going to be in the 2 different intermediates, or you're going to be at the low intermediate and the idle circuit. And then in between all that, you have a power valve to help control it. So that way, and the reason why they work so well is Andy showed this on his, is how efficiently it's using fuel. Typically, when you're moving between circuits, you're going to have either flat spots, lean spots. You're going to have more fuel, and it doesn't become very efficient. And it will use more fuel to do the same type of thing because it's delivering the fuel in funny ways. Well, this way here, you're actually introducing the fuel to where it can be used efficiently. And if you go back and watch that video, the first time he put it on a small block Chevrolet on that dyno, they actually used less fuel and made more power than the other carburetor. And that's what it does.
Okay, 38 Racing is asking DZ getting it sold or getting ready to sell. I hadn't even got it together yet. Like I just ended up clearance all 8 pistons, and now I'm getting ready to bolt the heads back on tomorrow. I'm going to check my rocker studs from the Pioneer ones that ended up coming in, and my Melling ones that were made in the USA came in. So I'm going to slam them in there and then adjust the rockers on it and get it running. And then when I do, if you want to buy it, I'm just going to sell it for pretty much what I got in it. So just be mindful. It is full of GM parts, so they're not cheap. But I'm not trying to make any money on it. I'm literally just going to sell it and get my money back out of it and put it back into something else for my. Actually, I'm going to put it back into my No Name Nationals project. Is what I'm going to do. But yeah. So if you're interested, just hit me up, and I may be able to even deliver it, depending on how far I need to go. Bobby Frizzell asks, with the Triple Crown, is it small blocks only, or can you run a big block as long as it meets the cubic inch rule? No, only small blocks at this point. The reason why we did that was because you could technically de-stroke a big block Chevrolet to 366 cubic inch and have something that would murder everybody.
Well, they make a 361 big block Mopar also.
They do. Mm-hmm. But the problem is you could murder everyone, horsepower-wise, numbers-wise. But I don't know. It is a weight to cubic inch class. We'll have to see how that goes. I know with those smaller cubic inch big blocks, you are limited on cylinder head. But, man, I'm telling you, 396 Chevy was no jump when that sucker came out. And, you can make some serious horsepower with them.
And the limiting factor in what we're talking about really comes down to cylinder heads. And with the big block, you have a much bigger cylinder head available to you. So that's why we're trying to just keep it small blocks for right now.
Oh, that's one thing I was going to say something. Dizzy Izzy says, I'm meeting a real estate agent in the 13th in Paris, Tennessee to list a small house with 3 1/3 acres, open, mostly flat. Hey, man, I may be looking for a new home here within the next 6 months. I got everything from me, February, yay, it didn't work out. So August, yay, just like everything else. But I don't know. I may be looking for a new place if that's the case. Okay. Okay. And Clayton's Toolbox says, why do some guys block off power valves for racing?
It's for easing of tuning. And back in, a lot of guys stuck in this mindset that if you backfire with a power valve, it's going to blow the power valve. Literally, it will. They have in the base plates now, they have power valve blowout protection, which is a little ball that gets in there in case it backfires and goes up. But really, I don't know, because they work so well, and that you're not going to load up plugs. But from a lot of people, all they have to do is change a jet. If it's literally on the idle circuit and it's idling up and it does a burnout and it goes down the track and then idles back, you really don't need a power valve. I do a power valve because I have a very big carburetor on a mid-size engine, 420 cubic inches. So I like the power valves because I've tuned with them my whole life, and they're very efficient if used correctly. And the tuning can get very precise. Imagine the difference between a jet size on the power valve. You can change that incrementally 10 numbers between each jet size. So if you need a 93 point whatever, you can literally put the 93 jet in, and then you can start changing the jet size in that. And then the air bleed half sizes that. And then you can go into these here, where you start getting into your the emulsion right here. So that way you can get into those and send the signal. So there's layers upon layers upon layers that you're literally just taking away from tuning. So that's why I always run a power valve.
Okay. Michael Schmidt says power valve is removed for drag racing, wide open throttle, 100%, no intermediate circuit required.
Yeah.
And Sheen, when I eventually get to this 63 Buick and I start working on that, I'm really going to need some help getting that carburetor sorted out, because I've got it all goofed up now. So definitely need some. Can I do that on the dyno, you think? Or does it need to be like driving?
No, you can drive it on a dyno. Basically, you just put it on the load. 50 foot-pounds of torque or 50 horsepower is really all you need to do to keep a car driving. And then you can just load them up like that at different RPMs, 1,500, 2,000 RPM, 50 foot-pounds of torque, part throttle. You can see the air fuel, the fuel being used, the heat in each cylinder, and then you can see the air fuel mixture, and then you can tune from there. It's really simple. In fact, it goes within minutes. You can get it.
Okay, Dylan Levi says, so can we put a Chevy engine in a Ford Mopar and a Chevy, etc.? Got my eye on a Dart local. I think he's talking for Triple Crown. Triple Crown, you cannot. If it's a Chevrolet, if it's a GM engine, it needs to be in a GM car. Mm-hmm. If it's a Ford or a Mopar, it needs to be in a Ford or a Mopar car.
You can go over there. The rules are posted over there, and all these are really, these are in the rules. But
right, and we've also said this, I think, from the first day. Yeah, had to be manufacturer of the car, had to meet the manufacturer of the engine.
And we did this so that way there wouldn't be the Fox body show with different engines.
That was really the primary reason, was we did not want a Mustang Fox body showing up with an LS in it and just whacking everybody, and then no one else can compete.
Yeah, or a Gen 3 Hemi,
Yeah, I know Tennessee is the top of the real estate bubble. That's why you need to sell it and get your money if you can. But if I'm homeless in the next 8-9 months, if you still got the place, I wouldn't mind throwing my hat in the ring for it. I just don't know what's going to happen from now, or like until August now. So, oh, see, here you go. He was looking at throwing an LS in that Dart. That'd be this horrible one to throw that in the Dart.
Yeah. Get yourself a Gen 3 Hemi, man.
Huh?
Go get a 5.7 Hemi. Go get a 2009 and newer 5.7 Gen 3 Hemi. It's going to have the Eagle heads. Just think of this, Levi. Those heads flow almost 350 CFM out of the box. Think about any LS head that does that. Like your 5.3s do not even come close to that. So think about that. You get 5.7 with that kind of head flow. Just give it a little bit of compression, put a different bump stick in it, and you're already making 100 horsepower more. Super simple.
Junkyard D is saying, are all Triple Crown cars getting weighed and pumped during tech? Yes. Yep. That's the plan. So Lout Burns is saying, slow your roll on real estate. Shop the foreclosure list. If
Exactly.
I need to probably start doing that because I bet there is a lot of foreclosures now.
Agreed. That's what I'm doing. Absolutely.
Dylan Levi saying he has 3 complete LS engines though. So well, that makes sense, man, that you'd want to
Okay.
do that.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you
Makes
what,
sense.
there is a ticket for that. You're up in Indiana. You're not far from here. Marketplace and look. There's a 75 Vega for sale around Nashville area. That was already a V8 swap car. That'd be your ticket right there for an LS.
Dylan, sitting right next to me, I have a 360 right here, and it's a 30 over, which would put it right at the limit, and that would fit right in your dart. I will give you this. It's a short block. It's a piston, rods, and crank. It's yours. You just got to come and get it. Have it.
There you go. Your dart is like a quarter complete.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, look, Vintage Adventure says I have 5 small block Mopars and 5 big block Mopars. Oh, well, okay. Yeah, Blue Grit Garage is saying he sounds like he needs a Vega or a Monza. Yeah.
Yeah. Where does Levi? Don't tell me that. Is he like close to us or is he far from us?
He was in like Indiana, I think.
Oh, so he's way up there. Okay.
Oh, Lot Burns says there's a tremendous increase in repossessions here in the Northeast. Oh, well, I don't know how long that's going to last. But I guess it might be going that way across the country, I'm sure. But I don't know anything about it. But it would be the perfect time to start looking at the foreclosure listings and hitting the banks that just went out from under it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the banks don't want the property. They just want the money.
They just want the money. Pay the taxes and get, because if they have to take on it, then they have to clean it up. They have to put all this money into it just to break even again. They don't want to do that. They just want to off it.
Right. And they just want you to pay your bills and loan your money out and make more money. That's what they're in the business of. So, all right. Well, let's get on to some questions. So let's throw some questions up there because I'll tell you what, I don't want this to be a slow night, but man, I'm dragging ass right now.
I did slow down for me too. I
Did
was
it?
like, oh yeah, just the last like minute, I was like, man, I get tired all of a sudden.
Yeah, I'm running out of gas.
Yeah.
Let's see. 38 Racing says I could set Dylan up with an H body. It wouldn't be worth the drive.
What's an H body? You gotta. I'm
That's
not
the
sure.
Vega. The Vegas and Months.
That's perfect.
Yeah. But and see, that's where Bobby Frizzell is like. He said, "Vintage Adventure. I eat and sleep FEs. If he was like, and that's where the Triple Crown would be kind of cool for him because they made so many small cubic inch FEs. But man, it is a big block, and unfortunately, we had to put that rule in place to keep the dang big block Chevrolets out because you can't just draw the line somewhere in the big block category. You can't. If we were to say, yeah, we allow big blocks, next thing you know, it's just like everybody's running a big block Chevrolet. I think the ones that can easily get away with stuff is going to be like the Pontiacs, because they're the intermediate block. They're all the same. They're just, the problem is they're going to get pumped, man.
And we got 3 different scales. Jeff's going to help us scale. He's going to bring his scales, so we'll have three easy scales. Just pump them up.
Who's Jeff? Two Hacks Jeff?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Junkyard D says, is the Triple Crown going to be on a chip draw? It could be. It could be a card draw, a chip draw, flip of the coin, whatever you want. I don't think it really matters. It's
Dude,
what everybody wants.
What if we did qualifying, like say on on Friday?
That would probably be the ideal thing to do, honestly.
Yeah,
have them qualify them off like the old school days, and then number 1 race is number 8 or whatever.
Exactly. And then once they get qualified, then from that point on, we figure out how we're going to do we'll draw. Are we going to flip the scale? Are we going to make number 1 run number 2, or how are we going to do it?
Dylan Levi. I'm thinking of a car that has IRS and it's not a Corvette. 1963 Pontiac Tempest.
I was just gonna say it's a Tempest.
Yeah. Haven't you ever seen My Cousin Vinny?
Yes.
Uh,
It came with posi track and rear end.
what was the timing on a 1962 or 57 Chevy with a 327? Well, if it would have been available in 1957,
Right.
this is what it would have been set at.
Right.
Clayton's Toolbox says, my converter in my Pinot is too tight. I don't want to replace it. I have 355 gears now with 26-inch tires. Do you think 410s would help much? Not to loosen the converter up, it won't, and I actually go the other way.
Yes. It actually will tighten up the converter.
Yeah.
But
if
actually,
you want to loosen the converter up, what was that trick that everybody was doing in Southern California? Was it the hydraulic fluid?
Yeah, you put different fluid in it. You got to put thinner fluid in. You can't run the thicker stuff. So it's not Type F. Yeah, I think when I had to
Type tractor fluid or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's that. It's the same stuff I put in my pump for my. It's like an ISO or something like that fluid.
Okay. Buick Smith says, yeah, try a different fluid. There's a couple of other options. You have to do some Googling online. There's tractor fluid. I can't remember. One of them is thinner than ATF. And when it's thinner than ATF, it allows it to stall higher. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have as much of an impact.
But it does foam and it does create more heat.
And it's hot. Yeah. But there was guys running, I want to say the tractor fluid is what they were running. There was another thing too, which was 530 Mobile One. Is it 530? 520.
Yeah, it was
015 maybe. It was a lightweight
010 wasn't 010.
It was a lightweight Mobile One motor oil everybody was running through there because the oil doesn't matter like what you're putting through there, right? It's just cooling and lubricating, pulling the heat out of the system. And all those oils kind of work the same. The transmission fluid just has high detergent in it to keep it clean for a long period of time. If you change it out every year, you could be fine with like Mobile One synthetic for a long time.
Yeah. I forget what the thin. It's like a zero fluid. Is it 020?
It might have been a 015 or something. It was light, whatever they were running. I remember everybody talking about it because they were trying to dial their converter to the hundreds, right? And that was the thing is like, they were trying to get an extra 100th out of it and trying to get the RPM within 100 RPM of what they wanted.
Yeah.
Why that
also too, when they got up on top of the mountain, it changed their converter too.
Oh, so was that what it was?
Yeah, because when they went up on the hill, you were a tenth slower up on top of the mountain.
Yeah, you had less motor.
And you had less engine. Exactly. It made less power. So they had to get the converter back up to where it was at. So they would thin that fluid out.
Buick Smith says, Dallas, has your son been able to come help you with the Easy 302? No. When I do get him for the weekend, I try not to I don't try to do any car stuff. I try to just do stuff with him because I don't get to see him all that much. So I try not to have any car stuff going on when he's here. Let's see. Dylan Levi says, if I get the ramp truck done early, I'll start planning my Triple Crown car. I'm telling you, Vega or Monza.
I'm telling you, you're going to have the most fun in that. Dylan, if you've never raced in a slower car where you're looking at the guy and the track is much longer, it is so much exactly. It's so much fun, dude.
Let's see. Tony's Hot Rod Garage says I've been looking for a set of skills as well. If I do, I'll bring them to No Name Nationals. All right, cool. Double eliminations. If we do qualifying, I don't see why you couldn't do a double eliminations round. Like, I don't see why you couldn't. Because if you think about it, if you do qualifying, whoever's number one qualifier generally races against the last qualifier. Okay. So there's already a huge disparity between the two.
Mm-hmm.
That's
where the chip draw though takes that all out.
It does.
See, if you do a chip draw, then it's 100% random. But I do like the idea of them qualifying, because that way we can kind of see how the cars would run, how close they're going to be, and if we did a good job or not, or if there's like an outlier.
Let's see here. Blue Grit Garage says Vinny's friend was hot. So my cousin Vinny. Oh yeah, Marissa Torme. She is hot, and the hotter she gets, like she ages like a fine wine.
Totally right.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, so Tony's Hot Rod Garage says there's low viscosity ATF for modern cars.
Yes, there are, but you got to be careful on some of those too, because like the ZF8HP, we tried that. It's a very, very thin fluid, but the shear point, it's got such a narrow band before the fluid overheats and burns up. Now I know it's drag racing, but if you're on the trans brake, isn't it like every second you're on the trans brake, your temperature goes up 10 degrees? So
I think it's longer than that. I think it's more than that. I remember the guys at the very first No Name Nationals. Remember when the Nelsons showed up and the tree malfunctioned or the tower malfunctioned or something, and they couldn't get the tree to come down, and they were on the converter for like, I don't remember, 3-4 seconds, but it ended up just freaking smoking the tranny.
Yeah. Now, I can tell you that we tried running some of those very low viscosity ATFs, the same one that you put in the BMWs or the ZF8HPs, like the modern Chargers and whatever, and it will cook, because it's got, at low temperature, the viscosity, there's a very small parabolic on those, because they in startup viscosity, but they don't have very much working temperature, so you got to be very careful with those. But yes, I do agree with you, Tony. Oh, and by the way, I plugged the T-shirt in my last video, so yeah.
Michael Schmidt says, floor pans, do you trace new ones on top of the old ones and butt weld, or do you overlap the new one on the old floor? I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that, because what I know to do is you put the new one in, laying on top of the old one, you trace it around, and then what you do is you come down like a, say, half an inch to an inch, and then that's where you cut it at. And then what you do is there's a flanging tool that you buy that just creates a bevel within, like, say, you can set the depth on it for like a half inch or a quarter inch or whatever. And you just come around and it's a flanging tool for sheet metal, and you just run it around the new cutout or the old cutout floor pan, which puts a lip on it. And then you just drop your new one in. It'll be held in by pressure. And then you just tack it into place, and then you start going around that sucker.
So essentially a butt weld is what he's saying. But yes, that's exactly, that's how I do it. I did the same thing.
Bobby Frizzell says, I need a Pinto in my life with an FE and a 4-speed. I tell you what, dude, I'd need a Pinto, or even I would go with a Maverick in my life with a sock motor and a 4-speed.
I would even go Gremlin. I would go Gremlin and a 4-speed at this point.
Junkyard D says, I like the trip draw. The chip draw is the way to go. Luck of the draw, random. Mm-hmm. So, and you're right.
I like that too.
Yes, driving slow cars fast is the most fun. Just beating the snot out of them and trying to get everything you can out of it. All right. Dylan Levi, any rules on T-tops? No. Let's see. He says, bet if I can make if I can find a gremlin, I'm in. So, yeah, I'm telling you, you know what? That would be it. If you really want to know a good ringer combo, a gremlin with a 304 4-speed would be freaking pretty killer in that Triple Crown class. I really think it would be. But then you also got they made a 327, I think. AMC made a 327, I believe.
I believe they made a 360 too.
Did they? Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, in the later Jeeps, you could get that 360, so you could run one of those. But those AMCs were good motors; they make good power.
Yeah, the 304, 360. Now I think 401 was the ringer, but I think that you could get the heads. Well,
Let's see.
Javelin.
Vintage Adventurer Drive says I have access to a 304.
Wow.
If you get the 304, guess what? You could get that Grammy pretty dang light.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could be at the bottom of the class, 2,700 pounds, and I bet it would be pretty dang capable. And the cool thing is, did you know that the AMC's 4-speeds were the Super T10 variant with the cast iron case, just like what's in my race car, the Power Brute Super T10. They were the first ones to use them. Dizzy says, I'll be looking for my personal best this year if I don't break it beforehand. Well, be careful, buddy. You don't have to beat on it like to extensive death before you even get to the no-name nationals.
Okay. Being the 390 AMC had the best heads, and then the 401 had number 2. Okay. I couldn't remember which one it was, but I remember one of those two had the best heads.
See this talking these AMC motors, they're good motors. I mean, if you think about it, AMC had a max effort pro stock program in like 1971, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
They were killer. Wally Booth had that program on par.
They were the best at some of the road racing, though. When in the
Trans Am series,
the Trans Am series, they were right up there with the Fords. In fact, I think some of those AMCs were faster than pretty much all of them out there. Even in the vintage ones, when you watch some of the vintage racing, the AMCs are always in the top 3.
Blue Grit Racing, I don't think there was a Boss 429 sock motor. I'm pretty sure those are two different engines. You had the sock, which was your 427 single overhead cam, and then you had the Boss 429, which had the shotgun, the croissant heads. Okay. Clint Street Machines, where do I find the Triple Crown rules? I think they're posted on the No Name Nationals webpage.
Yeah. I'm actually going over there real quick.
Loutburn says, I had a 390 in my Gremlin. Every time I drove it, it tried to kill me. I'm sure with that short wheelbase, the big block probably ran pretty good. Well, actually, I think all the AMCs are like an intermediate block. They're like a Pontiac where they're all the same size.
Let's see. I'm on the home page right now. If there's
Penske ran AMC in NASCAR in the 70s.
Oh yeah. So if you go to No Name Nationals Square site, and you go down on the home page, it says Triple Crown rules, and they're right there on the home page.
Oh, he said, "Yep, I just found them. Thank you."
Yep.
All right. Well, we're winding down for the night, man. We're getting down to about 12 minutes left. I think I'm going to call this one an early evening because I am just not feeling it.
Yeah, I'm getting pretty tired too, man.
It's not that I don't feel sick or anything, or like I hate everybody. Right? It's like I'm just like I'm just not feeling it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. Junkyard D wants to know, will there be an addendum to Triple Crown rules or maybe post a frequently asked questions list?
Well, that's what we're here for on Wednesday nights.
I think, the big one is if you're going to run class racing, make sure you print those rules out off John Wilburn's website and you live and die before you turn a single wrench on anything by those rules.
Get a plan. That's the biggest thing, is find a plan. What do you have? Do you have a car? Do you have an engine? What do you have to start with? Build around what you have to make it as cheap as possible and as fun as possible.
Danny Boyd says, I thought AMC said increasing deck heights for the larger displacements. They might have. I don't know. They're so scarce.
Yeah.
I mean, I've only seen a couple of them. And actually, both of them have been a 360 AMC.
I have an AMC Turbo 400 case. And the reason why I got it is because they didn't know what it was. I took it so that way I can cut the case off eventually at some point and use it.
That's not an AMC case.
No, it's an AMC bell housing,
And that's a Buick Nailhead.
Oh, it's a Buick Nailhead?
That's what was sold to, AMC, if you remember, before it was AMC, when it was Kaiser Jeep, Jeep made an agreement with Buick and bought Buick V6, bought the V6, but then the Jeeps in 1967 through 71 came with the Dauntless 350 Buick. But they also bought the Turbo 400 for all their Jeep platforms, and they used the Buick nailhead ones because Buick gave them a screaming deal on them because they didn't no longer make nailheads. So what they did was weird is you had a Buick engine in there with a nailhead Turbo 400 with an adapter plate to adapt it to a Buick 350 when a damn Buick 350 Turbo 400 would have bolted right up. So, and so they made these super, also, you got to see like the 4-speed stuff that came on them. Oh God, what a freaking garbage mess that was.
Yeah. But, so this 400 though, that we got, it was in one of the scrap bins. So I picked it up. So if I ever need a 400 for something that really, really fast one day, I'll use that.
That one, my friend, should be a switch pitch capable.
Really?
Yeah. Look on the side at the plug.
1 hour and 50 minutes.
Yeah. Well, no, I said it at the beginning when somebody.
You did? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Look at the side of the transmission, and if it's got 2 plugs on the kick down, if it's got one vertical, one horizontal, metal prongs there, it's a switch pitch. And then so if you want Turbo 400, switch pitch setup, man, I got the converters over here.
Well, what I'm going to do it for is I'm going to put one of those Sonics, those aluminum drums in there. So yeah, because I got one of those too. So
let's see. Nick the Van Man says, I'm so disgusted with my van I may build a triple crown vehicle out of protest against it. Man, I'm telling you, all right, if this was just me, right, look around and see if you can find the pedal assembly for a stick. And I say what we do is we put a ZF 5-speed in that sucker like was in my Ford truck. That was the ticket, dude. I didn't do anything to it but buy clutches. And I did 3 of them. Because, man, I loved doing freaking burnouts in it. Hot rodding that thing. The ZF bolts right in place of a E40D, I think. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, then the Turbo 400 was available behind the 301. You know, the interesting thing, that Turbo 400s were also available behind Jaguar and Bentley buses. Bob Burns says he's got one of them AMC Turbo 400s in the trash pile. Yeah, dude, you should go get that out and go cut the bell housing off and buy a $600 bell housing from JW Ultra Bell, and it'll bolt to whatever you want.
Yes, that's
Sawzall capable. Yeah, it's Sawzall capable. You can literally do it at home with a Sawzall on a file.
Yeah, go get that thing out there because those things are very sought after. Because nobody can use them, so why not cut the bell housing off?
Yep, there you go. Rolls-Royce even used a Turbo 400. That's correct. Wow. Okay. Paul, I said it like right when we started. Somebody threw it up. I think Ron
SSR.
Roberts from SSR Performance said it. Yeah.
But you said it though, reading something.
I was reading it. Yes.
You were reading it, but when it actually came up in conversation, it was 1 hour and 50 minutes in it. So.
Okay. This guy's Dizzy Easy says a YouTube video today. A guy found 3 AMC machine cars at the same house. Bought all 3. Dude, those are cool. I like those cars.
Yes.
The other one I really like is that Scrambler, the SC Rambler. That thing's cool.
I like the Javelin. I like the road race one where they cut where the back end, the EMC, it was a Javelin, whatever. No rear seat. That thing was awesome.
I don't know what this is. 8-bolt pump. So BNR is saying better off with a Pontiac V8 8-bolt pump turbo 400. I have 270 Bonneville 455 and 77 Pontiac 400 police car. I guess they must have the 8-bolt pump.
Mine's just a case. So, yeah, that would make sense. I think we use those at TCI for some of the really high-end stuff.
Bobby Frizzell said he's now looking for a gremlin. Okay.
I like that guy. That guy's awesome. Yeah, it was right. It was called the AMX. That's what it was. It was the AMX. Thanks for that, bud. That was my favorite car, man. There was a guy down the street who had one, and it literally was the red, white, and blue, at an angle colors.
And that's the Scrambler.
It was the road race car. It was the AMX, and it was literally like, yeah, they typically the back end was shortened. It actually looks a little funny because the rear axle looks like it was almost like an AFX car. It was pushed up and it looked a little funky, but man, did that car handle awesome.
Let's see. 38 Racing says, is the AMC Turbo 400 any different than others aside from the bell? No. That's the only thing that's different is the bell housing. It's some like the ones that I have seen Turbo 400 variants are the Jaguar ones were I want to say they were Chevrolet bell housing. The Jeep Kaiser Jeep ones were nailhead Buick. And then the later AMC might have had its own bell housing. I don't know. It would look a lot like a Dodge bell housing, I would assume.
That's what this looks like. It's a Dodge.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah. And the reason why you find these, and the reason why nobody wants them is they'll come in a core bin, 400s, and then they're just looking for Chevrolets or BOPs, and then they got this one that's round and like, what the hell is this?
Oh, that's the nailhead. If it's round, it's the nailhead.
Yeah, it's like rounded like that, and so it's and they look just like a Chrysler bolt pattern too. So they're like, what's this? And they end up just throwing them to the side normally. So usually you can
probably
get
the Buick nailhead that you got there, dude.
Yeah. Usually you can get AMC 400 case really, really, really cheap.
But here's somebody saying that the Internationals had them too. Indirect Connection says the AMC 401 with Turbo 400 would have been found mainly in Jeep pickups in 1973 International pickups. The International casting plant had problems keeping up demand, so International Harvester added the 401 Turbo 400 as an option. That's pretty interesting. I did not know that.
Good. I didn't know that either.
Let's see. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and call her a night. We're going to wind this down. I don't know if John is going to be having a live on Friday. I really don't. He's not been in here. I don't blame him. I wouldn't be on here either. But I don't know if he's going to miss his Friday live. That's normally his thing. Like I said in about the middle of the video, John Wilburn's mom passed away this week. So make sure you go over there. Oh, there's John right there. Make sure you go over to his channel, watch his memorial video to his mom, give it a good thumbs up, and send him some encouraging words to get through this tough time. But he says he will be live on Friday. I didn't even know he was lurking. So there you go. The answer is there.
Yeah.
But all right. I guess we will see you guys on the flip side next Wednesday.
Yeah.
All right. So we are out.
All right. You guys take it easy.